The sun hung low over the vast Wyoming plains, casting long shadows that stretched like fingers across the dusty earth. Amos Carter stood on the weathered porch of his ranch house, his calloused hands gripping the railing as he surveyed the land that had been both his inheritance and his prison for the better part of 2 decades. At 42, Amos was a man forged by isolation, his face etched with lines from years of squinting against the relentless wind and sun. His hair, once a thick mop of brown, was now streaked with gray, and his broad shoulders slumped slightly under the weight of unending solitude. The ranch was all he had left after his parents passed in a freak blizzard 10 years prior, leaving him to tend the cattle and mend the fences alone. The nearest town, Willow Creek, was a half-day's ride away, and Amos ventured there only when supplies ran low or when the ache in his chest grew too heavy to ignore. That ache had been particularly insistent lately. Nights were the worst, when the wind whispered through the cracks in the walls, mocking the emptiness of his home. He'd tried once to court a woman from town, a schoolteacher named Eliza, but she'd laughed at his clumsy advances and married a banker instead. Since then, Amos had resigned himself to his fate, a lonely rancher, destined to fade into the landscape like the faded paint on his barn. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. It started with a rumor whispered in the dim light of the Rusty Nail Saloon during one of his rare visits to Willow Creek. Old Man Pritchard was there, as always, hunched over the bar with a bottle of cheap whiskey clutched in his gnarled fist. Harlan Pritchard was a fixture in town, known for his mean streak and his penchant for gambling away whatever scraps of fortune came his way. His wife had died years ago, leaving him with a daughter, Lila, who was said to be deaf and mute from birth. The girl was 17 now, a slip of a thing with pale skin and hair like corn silk, always trailing behind her father like a forgotten shadow. Folks pitied her, but no one dared intervene when Pritchard's temper flared, which it did often, especially after a losing hand at cards. Amos had nursed his own drink at the far end of the bar, listening idly to the chatter. That's when he heard it, Pritchard, slurring his words, offering to sell Lila for the price of $1. "She's useless anyhow," the old drunk bellowed, his eyes bloodshot and wild. "Can't hear a damn thing, can't talk. But she'll clean and cook if you beat her right." The saloon fell into an uneasy hush, a few men chuckling nervously, others shifting uncomfortably. Amos felt a surge of something hot and unfamiliar, anger, perhaps, or a twisted sense of justice. He thought of his empty house, the cold meals he ate alone, the silence that pressed in like a vice. Before he could think better of it, he slid his last dollar across the scarred wooden bar. "Deal," he muttered, his voice steady despite the pounding.